Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here to show off a face mask and some gloves. The face mask here is from my sister's friend, Ari. She very kindly put this together, and I am wearing this to fulfill the safety requirements that my job has to offer. And I thought while I was at it, I would show off these work gloves that help me out while I'm in the grocery department. And now I'm going to take them off because today, due to the fact that the first thoughts from my library segment was a hit, I thought that we would make this an ongoing thing on Monday nights for the time being, because I think what better way than to have a casual conversation, because I think that we need to have these kinds of things at this point in time. With regard to the events that are taking place regarding the coronavirus and slash COVID-19, there is a lot to be, as much as it is a negative travesty and a heinous pandemic, there is a lot of optimism that I have heard as far as numbers are concerned. They were projecting 80,000 deaths, but now they're only projecting about 60,000. Hopefully we can get that number down even more. And by they, these are those that are medical experts and professionals that the White House has been relying on. But they were also projecting here that the peak would take place in late April, early May, and now that number has, now it's occurring earlier, which it's not, as much as it does not sound attractive, and or as much as it doesn't sound pleasant, and it really is not pleasant, because sickness and death are sickness and death, and neither which is a good thing. But if we reach the peak now, that is a form of flattening the curve, because reaching the peak later would cause an upward number, whereas if we reach it now, the number goes down quicker. And I would say that the best methodology is to just keep staying home unless you are an essential worker or engaging in essential task or an essential errand. And I would say abstaining in April will make May a bit more hopeful. So I would say we abstain in April, we'll make it in May. Abstain in April, make it in May. All together now. Abstain in April, make it in May. Okay. That's good. But having filmed this video, I had just finished observing Easter with my family. It would just be it's just the four of us that live in our house, as far as humans are concerned. We have a whole lot of animals, but my parents and my younger sister and I engaged in a very good Easter dinner. I had wanted turkey, so that's always, I've really had an appetite for turkey and stuffing, salad you could ever go wrong with, and my mother makes an absolutely delicious potato soup. She makes a really good batch of soups. Her corn chowder is amazing. She's made a good cauliflower soup. She's made chicken soup, pasta vajol, just the whole realm of things. Easter dinner, even if it's not the same without I think the entire family is desired, but hopefully by next Easter, I'm optimistic that we'll all be able to enjoy it together, like all these good times. And it just so happens that today is Thomas Jefferson's 277th birthday, and me being the enthusiast for U.S. presidential history, Thomas Jefferson happens to be my favorite U.S. president. I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say he is by and far the best American president, but to me, I think he is the best in the way that he defined America as its own country. He not only gave it an absolute platform, both physically and mentally, but he also created American culture and American custom. Even though George Washington, as far as politically speaking, I think a good argument could be made that he was our best president with how he wanted an independent, party-free track of mind. The difference with him and Jefferson, though, is that Washington still abided by British custom, where you would bow to the president, and you would, the way that meetings took place, they were very, they were reflective of British Parliament. And then you had John Adams, who was the second president, who he was a bit more, he was for a strong federal government. He was conservative, which at that day meant that his views were a little bit more reflective of the customs of British Parliament, even if he believed in the American ways a bit more. And he also, the Alien Sedition Acts were very anti-constitutional in how it was. He felt that it should be illegal to speak against the government and against your leaders, which is a direct infringement on the First Amendment as far as freedom of speech and of the press is concerned. But Thomas Jefferson comes along, and he creates a completely different way of government, a different way of practicing as far as the government is concerned, where instead of bowing, he believed in shaking hands, which maybe at this time, at this point in time, bowing is a little bit more reasonable, but I think we'll get back to the point where things are as they were. But instead of meetings set up like Parliament, Jefferson was more of, he was more into a laid-back dinner where he would bring, the things that he brought, they were very reflective of French culture and other European areas. The first pasta dish in America was served during the Jefferson administration, and it was in the form of a macaroni pie. And Meriwether Lewis made a remark about it, and it wasn't a very positive one, in his mind, that is. But people often cite that it was macaroni and cheese, but in a way you could say so, but it was more accurately speaking, and more specifically speaking, a macaroni pie. But because James Madison was the Secretary of State, ice cream was served at one of his dinners. He also served waffles at his during one of his meals, and then one of the major fun facts is that he ate a tomato to prove that it was not poisonous, because people thought that they were during that period of time, or they had that sense of that myth. But I thought that for his birthday, I would go through my collection of books that I have about Thomas Jefferson, be it general biographies or specified biographies. And the one that I read and really enjoyed was Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power by John Meacham. This one is a testament to what Jefferson did as a public servant. This pretty much covers everything from his signing of the Declaration of Independence, his tenure at the University of Virginia, him being Secretary of State under George Washington, him being governor of Virginia, his presidency, and the decisions that he made as a leader. But it also covers the details of who he was as a person, his family, and a lot of the quirkers that the details pertaining to his horses. And then also, one of the things that really fascinates me about Jefferson is that we could pretty much project that he had what we know today as Asperger's syndrome. And I did a paper in my British Colonies and American Revolution about Jefferson as a Renaissance man, but you can see some of his major interests being detected in here, be it his interest in the... He kept a recording of the weather every day. He was very fascinated with that, and he was also fascinated with his how much money he spent, and not necessarily the in efforts to save money, because Jefferson had a spending problem that led him into debt, but he was able to come out of debt when he sold his book collection to the White House after it set fire during the War of 1812. But I read this back in 2015, and it did make my 10 best books of that year. The others I have yet to read, but they are of great interest that I would like to look into. Here is Jefferson's Second Revolution, the election crisis of 1800, and the triumph of Republicanism. This examines the election between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, who were lifelong colleagues and rivals. They had an infamous political relationship with one another. They had been friends, they were enemies, they became friends toward the end of their lives. They both died on the same exact day, which was the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1826. Jefferson died about 6.5 hours before John Adams, but this was at this point in time. The presidency had just moved to Washington, D.C., and John Adams was a Federalist. Thomas Jefferson was what they called a Democratic Republican, but Adams was more of a conservative thinker, or he was more into a stronger federal government. Jefferson was what you could call a liberal, but more so a classic liberal, or a libertarian per se. He was more into states' rights. But the interesting thing about Jefferson is that as much as he was against the use of the executive order, he had exercised it plenty of times himself once he got into office. But another book I have from him is Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates, The Forgotten War That Changed American History. This was when I had gotten this, it was currently on the, it was currently new and in hardcover, which I don't often do. I'm doing it a little bit more often with the Booktube prize, but that is me judging. This is a bit of an interesting hidden gem, something that's often overlooked in history. So I would be interested to examine this aspect of Thomas Jefferson. The one that I really am looking to get into follows back to the discussion that I had pertaining to Jefferson having Asperger's, and this one makes an argument in that favor, and that is Diagnosing Jefferson, Evidence of a Condition That Guided His Beliefs, Behavior, and Personal Associations. And I also make the argument that, in a way, his Asperger's really shaped this country with its political structure and its culture. So I'm really inclined to read this and learn more. This was written by Ledgin, and there are comments in here by Temple Grandin. And also, as far as these books, Brian Kilmeade and Don Yaeger wrote Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. Susan Dunn wrote the Jefferson's Second Revolution. The next book was written by Joseph J. Ellis. He has a prolific resume as far as presidential and historical biographies and pieces are concerned. And this one is American Sphinx, the character of Thomas Jefferson. And this would be an interesting one to look into and compare with Thomas Jefferson and the Art of Power, even though this one seems like it's got a lot more meat. I'll be interested to see what kind of substance this one has. This one is Negro President, Jefferson and the Slave Power by Garry Willis. This one examines the Jefferson and his Jefferson and him as a slave owner, which, aside from John and John Quincy Adams, most of your early presidents were slave owners. Thomas Jefferson gets the greatest stigma as being one, primarily because he had relations with one such slave in Sally Hemings, and they produced kids, and the two of them had kids with one another. So a lot of people found this to shatter his legacy, but that's very tough because many of people back then were slave owners, and if you lived in the South, that was a way of living. But I would be interested to learn more about this in particular. I know that Jefferson was able to cut a deal with Sally Hemings to stay in America because she would have been able to obtain freedom if she stayed in Europe, but Jefferson promised that he would free her children if she went back with him. And then I got the Jefferson Bible, The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth. This is Jefferson chronicling the parts of the Bible that he found to be the most meaningful. That is my collection of Jefferson biographies. I find him to be the most fascinating of the presidents. I also find him to be the most fascinating of the founding fathers. I do not necessarily agree with his practices as far as slave owning is concerned, but it is very difficult to make judgments on people during that period of time. As far as what I'm reading now, I'm primarily doing my reading for the Booktube Prize, which I'm judging nonfiction in the quarterfinals. I will let you know my group when the round concludes and I come out with a video. But I'm also making my way through Thomas Transtromer's it's a poetry collection of his, The Great Enigma, New Collected Poems. This was translated into English by Robert Fulton, who Transtromer worked with throughout his life. And I've made my way through the first collection, 17 Poems, which was written and released in 1954. But this really requires that I really immerse myself. I've been doing most of my reading of this during breaks at work, and it is somewhat challenging because of there's generally a lot of people in the break room, and I usually only get 15 minutes. But as far as the poems in here are concerned, there's a particular poem that I am looking to go over in an individual discussion video called Morning Approach, which really stuck out to me with its use of imagery. And that's exactly what got Transtromer the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2011. The Nobel Prize Committee, the statement that they gave was, through his condensed, translucent images, Transtromer gives us fresh access to reality, which is quite true as far as using very descriptive, elaborate images in order to describe basic ideas and just a beautiful scenery. And we've gone over when we saw the islands again on our channel, but there's so much to look at, and I'm really looking to make my way through this. And then I'm also, most of my reading is going to be for the Booktube prize, and then if applicable, I'm going to start getting my reading for season 12 taken care of. But it's been great to be able to follow. I've been making my way back on watching more Booktube videos, and one thing that really made my week last week was seeing the return of Michaela and Gretchen from Betwixt the Books. They have a superb channel, and I highly suggest that you check them out. Last Monday, I was off, and I came across Michaela's video, pretty much catching up on everything, and it was so great to see that she is planning to reboot everything. I know that she had been talking about doing so, and it was just great to see that she was back, and hopefully she's got a lot more in store. And then I was thinking about Gretchen as well. I had thought that with everything going on with Gretchen in school, I would maybe see her again after college as far as new video is concerned, but I saw a video of hers on Wednesday, 2 days after Michaela's, and it was a delight to see how she was doing as well. And I'm really hoping that they come out with some more content, because their videos always keep me intrigued, and they were really they were the ones that really inspired the way that I approached this channel and how they engage in general discussions, and then they decided they wanted to do individual videos as well, because during our first year, we only did discussion videos, and then I thought that it would be a good idea to release some individual content as well, and I think it really works for the channel, and I think it's really helping me get through this, everything taking place. I think that Booktube, as I said last week, we need Booktube now more than we've ever needed it, and I've noticed there's a lot more people joining the community. A lot of them are starting new channels. There's some people that are making their way back, and even with my busy schedule, I've been doing my best to make contributions where I possibly am able, and hopefully some of the other gladiators follow suit, because I'm pretty sure you're going to want to check up on them and see how they're doing. But I hope that everybody is doing well during these times. I hope that everyone is staying healthy and safe. I'm hoping that those of you that are essential workers, be it working in a hospital, working in healthcare, working as a first responder, working at a grocery store or supermarket, working at a gas station, a pharmacy, anything that is essential. I hope you are keeping up, staying healthy, staying safe, and I really appreciate what you are doing to contribute during these times. And my thoughts are with those that have been affected as far as a job is concerned. Those that are either sick, or they're dealing with a loved one that's sick, or those that are dealing with the losses of loved ones because of this, and also my thoughts, prayers, and condolences are to those that have lost their lives because of this. But I want to use these Monday night discussions to engage in anything you might want to talk about. If there's anything you want me to discuss on this channel, I'd be happy to do so. In some way, shape, or form, I want to tie it into books, reading, literature, and Booktube. But I'm up to doing some additional random casual discussion. So I'd be happy to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you check these out. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel, and I hope you check out our discussions on Friday nights. Thank you, and for now, keep reading.